You've written your code in Ruby on Rails. Now you want to deploy it to a server. But first, maybe you should check to see if it actually works. That's what continuous integration is about. Let's talk about it today. Hey guys, Phil here again with another Ruby on Rails chat. Today we're heading off kind of into the land of what they call DevOps, which is some kind of new term that I don't really know what they're talking about. But essentially, you want to get your code out, You're not writing this just for yourself. So there is something called continuous integration. And what is continuous integration, you might add? It is when you check your code into a remote repository, some kind of process goes, grabs that code, checks to see that it compiles, we're using that term very loosely here, compiles, that tests run, and you're good to go. And you do this for a couple of reasons. One is so you don't screw any other developers working on the project with you, so that when they check out the code, it'll, run on their machine, hopefully. And also when you're on your way to releasing something, you have syntactically correct files, because one of the things about Rails and Ruby is that it's not compiled, right? So we're not pre-compiling anything. But often in the development environment, we don't run syntax checks, we don't load up every file. That normally in the dev environment that doesn't happen, but it definitely happens in production. And then you can say, oh my God, I didn't do a brace here, everything missed it. So that's one of the things that continuous integration can test or check. And of course the other thing is tests. A lot of developers don't run tests all the time on their own machine. So when you check things into the remote repository, you can have this other process go out and run the tests for you. That is, let me just check to see, that's pretty much what continuous integration is. Continuous integration the term comes from back when we had extreme programming, which was this concept in late 90s, I think, that maybe evolved into agile. But basically, you just want to have, you want to cut down that time at the end. Now, back when I was starting out, and yes, it's another boring story from the old man, is, I remember one of my first serious programming jobs I had in the early 90s. I was working in Richmond, Virginia, and we were writing Macintosh software. And to compile the app so that you could send it off to the testing team and all the rest of that stuff, to compile the app sometimes could take 2 hours. And that was back in the heady days of software development. So, in our office, we had things like pinball machines and popcorn makers and video games and stuff like that, because we needed that because you sat around for 2 hours waiting for your thing to compile. Continuous integration is kind of an answer to that. It is, don't worry about doing that so much on your local machine. Write it as you think best. Of course, run bits as you can on your machine, then check it into the repository and let the central service do it. I know a lot of people are going to watch this video and say, but that's not how I do continuous integration. I don't use this and that. There's lots of ways to do continuous integration. I am going to be doing it in a very simple way to give you the concepts and to give you an example of it actually working. And that is, I'm going to be using something called Travis. Some people like it, some people don't. I agree the name is a bit strange, but we're going to get Travis to do the work for us. And so let's jump over and take a look at what we need to do. Hopefully I can do this video one time. There might be some edits. We'll see how I'm feeling about going back and re-recording it to cover the inevitable mistakes that I always make. All right, so let's take a look. I'm using the Contractometer, which is the project that I wrote for the last Hotwire stimulus demo. And right now, what I'm going to do is I'm in the Contractometer. I'm going to create a branch. And that is, let's call it for CI, for continuous integration. And the first thing we really need to do is to get some stuff into our gem file. So let's go and take a look. This is, as you remember from the last time, the bog standard, straight out of the box, Rails gem file. I've added in some stuff at the bottom. This is, the marginalia, the memory profiler, stimulus rails, and that kind of stuff. Stuff that we talked about last time. You can go and take a look at the previous video if you want to see what it is. I'm not talking about developing the app here. I'm talking about doing the continuous integration. Now, some people like to go through and remove all the comments in this file. I don't quite see the point in doing that, so I'm not going to. One thing that we can do, because this branch is, let's say, specifically for continuous integration, I'm going to get rid of this stuff because it's only for running on Windows. I'm not running on Windows. The continuous integration is not running on Windows. And eventually when I release something to the web, that's not going to be on a Windows server either. So let's get rid of that. And let's go down to the bottom. And, well, no, we don't need to go down to the bottom at all. We can get rid of the development block if we wanted. I'm not going to do that, but you can get rid of it. We're going to use leave bybug in there. Let's add some of the things that we need. So we're going to be doing, at the heart of doing this is testing. So we're going to use Cucumber for that. Not that I'm going to be writing really any sophisticated tests in this, but let's pretend that we're doing the real thing. So let's Cucumber Rails, and then there's something called Coveralls, which is a code coverage tool, and it'll give you a web interface that will integrate with Travis and show you your code coverage. In all fairness, I had some issues getting that working, but we're going to leave it in and pretend that it works. For the other thing we want to have is database cleaner, which is just very nice if you're doing tests. And then we want the stuff that we use for rspec, which is factory bot Rails, and of course rspec, rspec Rails, and then what is it, shoulda matchers. So that's all the stuff just for doing the tests and so on like that. The Cucumber adds in the Cucumber support. Coveralls, I said, database cleaner will clean their database every time before you do a testing, which is very nice. Factory bot is to give you some factory gems. rspec Rails, of course, and shoulda. And so when we do this, what we need to do is add some stuff into application RB. Really, in fairness, a lot of this is not strictly to do with setting up the continuous integration. It's to set up the proper test environment. But it's kind of all part and parcel, as we say. This don't generate system test files. We're going to get rid of that. We don't need it. And we're going to write a config generator to generate. And what do we want? So generate helper is false. I don't know why I'm just going to paste these in. You know what? So there's a whole bunch of stuff you want to turn off. This is again just to make the test more clear. I don't know if this thing's going to work. It's not going to work. So let's do that. And now, okay, we've set all that stuff up. So let's run bundler. So bundle, it's going to go off, and you'll see it's got rspec Rails is in there, the shoulda matchers are in there, database cleaner, Cucumber, all that stuff's been added in. And now we can actually run the installers. So remember when we generated you weren't here at the time, I don't think, generated this project, I didn't actually create a test. And, I said skip tests when I did the Rails new. So we have no test stuff in here at all. So one thing we're going to need to do is bundle exec Rails G, and let's install all the stuff for rspec. And it won't do that. No, because I made a typo somewhere, and that is generators. There we go. Let's do that again. So it's going to generate a .rspec file. I can't see because my camera's in the way. rspec, which is just require spec helper. It will have created a spec directory with some Rails helper and spec helper. We're going to edit those in a little bit. And while we're here, why don't we generate the Cucumber install as well? Off we go. Again, some stuff for the Cucumber tests. I'm probably going to do another video, where I talk about writing tests and using Cucumber, maybe Capybara. Is that how we say it? Capybara. And all the rest of that stuff. So this is just very cursory. We're just kind of getting everything ready that we need to do it. And so the other thing we added, of course, was the database cleaner. So we want to go to Rails helper. Now in Rails helper, there will be an rspec blocks. There it is, rspec configure that will have been added by this whole file was added by the generator. And what we need to do is inside of this block, you can do it anywhere, so I'll just do it at the bottom. Again, a lot of people delete the comments. Comments are helpful. So we're going to add in a couple of blocks here, which is a before and around. And so before each test suite, we're going to set up some stuff for database cleaner, and we're just going to truncate the tables, get rid of all that data. And then around each thing, we're just going to do a clean and then run the example. The example in this case is the test, right? And outside of the rspec block, don't worry, I'm going to have README on the old GitHub there for this project. We're going to just set up the shoulda matchers here. Ooh, can I make the cursor big? No. Shoulda matchers. And then we're good to go. So all of our stuff has been configured. I think there's a coverall. Maybe I'll add the coverall stuff in just for the hell of it. You know, I did another version of this video when I went back and I watched it, and I noticed that I called coverall CoverGirl. I don't know. I really don't know about myself. And so we need to add some lines at the top of envarbee and spec helper to set the coverall connection. And also, seems like a lot of files, but what are you going to do? We're going to use simple cover. So we add a simple cov, and we're just going to say start the simple cov Rails simple. I'm not going to do anything sophisticated with that. So let's go over and look at something. We're going to look at, I've got it over here, Travis. So Travis is this thing that will connect with your GitHub account. Now I'll put a thing up. So what you need to do is go to travis-ci.com. Again, links in the description, and it'll be in the README as well. So you go to Travis, you sign yourself up. I used my GitHub account to sign up for Travis just so maybe I didn't have to do one step. I will put the screenshot of what it looks like when you first do that on there, and when you authorize Travis to have access. And then you can pull over all of your repos or and turn on some of them and turn off others. So I've done that, and I've got this stimulus turbo thing is already in there because, of course, I did a version of this before and tested it to make sure that my demo worked for you. So what we're going to do, so you can kind of ignore what we see here right now. Branches, we don't really have any branches. Again, sorry, you're going to have to ignore what I see there. But what we do need to do in our project to get Travis working, it's not enough that you tell Travis that the repo is there and all the rest of it. You need to create a .travis.yml. Worst place to put the camera, right in front of the edge of my thing there. And so we need to create this YAML file. And what Travis will do is it'll look for branches that have the Travis YAML. So right now I don't have a branch that has that, so I can't rebuild. That's because this branch the old branch I made yesterday when I tested is gone. So I can't build it all because there's no Travis. So what we need to do is a file here, a YAML file. We're going to say that our language is Ruby. Travis uses RVM, and we want to set our version. Now, in our gem file at the top, it will say what version of Ruby we're using. On your project, it may be different. You can put whatever version it is you're using, just make sure it's the right one. We're going to do a before script, and that means before firing up Travis, what should we do? And we should do a bundle exec rake db create all. So let's make all of our databases, and then we'll do a bundle exec rake db migrate. Doesn't take Einstein to figure out that. And we'll do a script. And what we're going to do, bundle exec rake ci tests. Now, it's completely possible that I did not do the CI tests part. So we need to create a rake file. This is the thing we're talking about here, rake CI tests. So what we can do in our lib tasks, we want to create a new file here, and we're going to call that ci.rake. And what do? Unless we're in production, we are going to require rspec core rake task, and we're going to require the cucumber rake task. I know it would be a million times better if I copied and pasted this, but today I feel like typing. Require, we're going to do the Coveralls rake task. Just pull all that stuff in, and we'll fire off Coveralls. And then we're gonna, this is a rake file, so we're gonna create a namespace of the other way, ci do. And what we want to say is let's run all our tests and generate coverage report. So task, tests, spec, cucumber. So it'll go through and run the tests, and then do a Coveralls push and send that data off to Coveralls. There we go. So we've created that CI file, which we have now told that thing, Travis, to do. So let's, what else do we need in there? Oh yeah, of course, we need to tell Travis what services, not Secreviz, services we use. And this is a pretty simple app, and I just use PostgreSQL, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, PostgreSQL is my database here. So we're going to do that. And then, do you want to send me a squillion notifications about the process of this? And the truth is, no, I don't want those. You may want your notifications, but it will spam the bejesus out of you. So there we go. Our Travis YAML is set up, and the Coveralls is set up. So let's push this. So what do we got? A git status. Let's see what we've changed. Let's make that a little clearer. So we modified the gem file, which of course will modify the lock file. You know, we added some stuff into application. Let's take a quick look and see what we added into application. We added the config generators stuff into application. I can just do all this here. I don't need to. We created the cucumber YAML. We changed development that's for Cucumber. It adds in a couple of annotations things there. We changed test, which I imagine did the exact same thing. Yes, we're going to add in that stuff there. And then we created a whole bunch of new files. We created the rspec file, the simple coverage file, the Travis YAML, Cucumber YAML that got created by the generator. Sorry, created a coverage, create some features. We created that rake file just there at the end, and there was a Cucumber rake file that was created by the generator, and a script, and I don't know what the script is, and a spec. So there we go. We've added all that. Now, there's two things we can do. We can do an add -p. I don't know if you know about this. If you're using Git, add -p is nice. It'll go through and then show you each file and say, do you approve these or not? It's very handy. If there's one change in a file you don't want to commit, you don't have to add all of the changes in a file to Git. You can say, okay, leave out that change. If it comes up, you can say no. If you've changed something that's only specific for you. But in this case, I'm going to quit that because Git add. I know I want to keep everything here, so I'm just going to do that. If I look at Git status again, everything's waiting, so I can say git commit add all the things for Travis, Coveralls, and CI. And it's called for CI, so we can say git push origin for CI. Now, in this particular case, it is on GitHub. I don't use GitHub personally for my professional projects, like Zonmaster and so on. I use either Bitbucket or something else like that. But if you're going to do continuous integration, the easiest way for sure is if you have a GitHub, your code is on GitHub. So this project, as you well know, is on GitHub. So we're going to push that up to GitHub. I will have to type in my password 2 times. And there we go. We've created a new branch called for CI. Inside of that, Stimulus, Hotwire Turbo, Bootstrap 5 demo project. So let's go over and take a look. And here we are. Let's just refresh. And there we go. So I didn't probably have to refresh, but anyway. So the branch, it's got this cool little spinning icon. Let's see if I can zoom in. Ooh, look at that. It's got a little spinning icon. The branch of 4CI, and there's my commit comment. Can't say that a lot. Oh, look, I typed Coveralls wrong. Anyway, add all the things for Travis, Coveralls, and CI. Is it saying anything interesting over here? It started. This is build number 7 for this. It tells you what commit it is. If you click on this, it'll take you over to the commit. It'll do the diff. It'll tell you the branch. Tells you who it is. And it tells you what kind of environment it is that you're running this on. And then if you go down, Travis will show you all the stuff as it builds stuff, so the worker information is building Postgres, what version of Postgres is doing, which is 10, that's old, isn't it? Anyway, all the stuff that it needs. It does a RVM install, so it's kind of firing up a brand new machine off in the cloud somewhere, and it will run your code on that machine. Now, the cool thing about this is that pretty much essentially it's free. There are versions of Travis that are paid. There are other continuous integration things that are paid. And maybe if you're in a, you're developing a pro thing or whatever, then you can do the paid version. But the free version is totally fine for those of us working on smaller projects. And it's going to go off. It's going to do all of its stuff. And, You don't have to worry about, it's whatever version. I'm using Rails 6.14, so version's not a problem. You don't have any problems here, It just goes off and it's going to build this thing. And it'll show you how long it takes. I can't remember how long the building took before. So I might speed this up, or you might watch me drinking a lot more coffee. But, let's just talk for a second about continuous integration. A lot of people think that a lot of people think a lot of things are a magic bullet. They think continuous integration is some kind of magic bullet. And people kind of who are the flag bearers of continuous integration also do say these kinds of things. It's going to reduce your bugs. It's not going to do any of that. It's going to make things more stable, and it's going to make things a little bit more easier when you go to deploy. But it's a big help in running your tests, like I say. It takes this responsibility from the individual developer and pushes it up to a service. It is automation, right? That's the point. And automation is good, and oh my God, it errored. So we can look maybe and see. There, see, I made a typo. Perfect example here. It looked fine on my machine. I don't even know how I would test this on my machine because it's inside of a rake file that I normally wouldn't run as a developer. So I've made a typo. There we go. That's the benefit of continuous integration. I know that this branch is broken. So let's go down here, and where is it? It's in CI rake on line 6. There we are right there. Uninitialized constant coverall. Did you mean coveralls? Why, yes, I did. Sometimes people take me to task over this, that I make too many mistakes and all the rest. The point is to demonstrate being a normal human being. Normal human beings make mistakes. Okay, so that failed. So let's clean that up, and let's do a git add -p, and we can see that in our CI rake file, I've changed that to coveralls rake task, and let's just check one more time. Line 6, we're good to go. Stage this hunk. Stage it, git commit, fix my inevitable typo. And then we can push this up again. And it's going to push it. And then if we wait a minute, I would imagine we will see this start to build again. So while I was talking about how this doesn't really help you, it showed you how it helps you, okay? So I think it's a great thing to start from the beginning. The next thing, of course, is to write some tests, and we can write tests in rspec, and those tests will be run automatically as well. I'm not going to show you writing some tests here. This project is so basic, I haven't really thought of any good tests. See now, this time it says Postgres 9.6. So it's going off, obviously, and firing up different things. Interesting that this output seems to be a little different every time. That's fine. Anyway, there you go. Continuous integration with Rails, using Travis, using Coveralls, and rspec, and getting rspec into your project. Wow, I covered a lot, and it's really not been that long. Only about 30 minutes. Again, the camera's in the worst possible place. I hope you like these videos. I don't cover every possible permutation of doing everything when I do a video like about this one with tests or the other one about debugging or whatever. I'm covering the basics that I use and I think are important to know as a beginner or as a competent professional developer. We're not here to do the nuances of the language. We're here to write products that make money. Anyway, that's all for now. I hope you enjoy this. It's going to go off, it's going to build, but I'm not going to waste your time. I'll put a flashy screen at the end that shows that it built correctly. All for now. Like, subscribe, share it if you want, please. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now. And we're back. So it ran for 3 minutes and 18 seconds and it's passed. As you can see, I will zoom that up. Test number 8 passed. I played a little guitar while I waited. And you can see the build history. You can see that this one passed, that one failed. It goes build history. Pull requests. I don't have any pull requests on this one. And there we go. See you around.